Hello and welcome to this Divine Slumber Bible bedtime story. Tonight, you are invited to rest beside the ancient wilderness road, the long and sacred road once walked by Moses and the children of Israel beneath the quiet watch of heaven itself. Before we begin, take a slow breath in and gently let it go. Allow your shoulders to soften. Let the weight of this day slowly fall away from you, like dust carried off by the evening wind. You have done enough for today. Truly, this moment is no longer asking anything from you except rest. And as you settle beneath your blankets tonight, I'd like to gently ask, only if these stories bring peace to your heart, that you take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps this peaceful little community continue to grow and reach tired souls who may need comfort in the night. And if you feel like it, leave a comment telling me where in the world you were listening from and what time it is where you are. Or simply write, "I am ready." I always love seeing how many quiet hearts are gathered together beneath the same stars. You may also want to save this story for another evening, because there is a very good chance you will fall asleep before we reach the end of tonight's journey. And if someone you love has been carrying anxiety, grief, exhaustion, or fear, perhaps share this story with them too, so they may rest beneath these words as well. Now, the room around you is growing softer. The noise of the day is drifting farther away. Perhaps outside your window, the night air is cool and still. Perhaps the world beyond your blankets continues moving quickly and noisily somewhere far away. But here, in this moment, there is only quiet. Imagine the desert now, a vast and ancient wilderness beneath a sky overflowing with stars. Warm wind moving slowly across distant hills. A small fire blowing softly in the darkness. Sand cooling beneath the night air. Somewhere, far away, the faint sound of sheep bells drifting through the silence. And above it all, the steady presence of God. Tonight, we journey into one of the oldest and most beautiful stories ever remembered. A story of tired people learning how to trust again. A story of frightened hearts discovering freedom, one slow step at a time. A story of fire in the darkness. Bread falling gently from heaven. Water flowing from impossible places. And a God who stayed near even in the wilderness. Because the wilderness was never meant to be a place of abandonment. It became a place of meeting. A place where exhausted souls discovered that they were still loved, still guided, still protected beneath the quiet mercy of heaven. And perhaps tonight, as your breathing slows, as your eyes grow heavy, you may discover the same thing for yourself. That even here, even now, God is near to you. The same God who guided Israel beneath pillars of cloud and fire still watches over weary people in the night, still comforts anxious minds, still speaks gently to wandering hearts, still leads tired souls beside still waters and into peaceful rest. So breathe slowly now. There is nowhere else you need to be. The wilderness road is waiting for us, blowing softly beneath the stars. And in this very moment, open your heart and receive the peace that is coming. Now let your body sink a little deeper into the place where you are resting. Feel the quiet support beneath you, the pillow beneath your head, the blankets resting gently over your body. The softness surrounding your tired muscles after a long day of carrying thoughts and responsibilities and little invisible burdens that perhaps no one else even noticed. You do not need to carry any of those things right now. For this moment, you may simply rest. Take a slow breath in through your nose and hold it softly for a moment. And then exhale gently through your mouth. Let the breath leave your chest slowly, like warm air drifting across a calm desert evening. Again, breathe in deeply, slowly, peacefully, and exhale. Feel how your breathing is already beginning to slow the rhythm of your thoughts. Perhaps your mind has been crowded today. Perhaps worries have followed you into the night like distant footsteps behind you on a dark road. But you do not need to chase every thought tonight. You do not need to solve every problem before sleep arrives. The stars do not strive to shine. The rivers do not force themselves to flow. And your soul does not need to struggle in order to be held by God. So let your jaw unclench now. Let the small muscles around your eyes soften. Allow your forehead to smooth gently. Feel your neck release the tension it has been carrying. Your shoulders, too. Let them drop lower now, as though you are finally setting down a heavy basket you have carried all day long. Breathe slowly now. You are safe. The night around you is quiet. And even if the world beyond your room still rushes noisily onward, here there is peace. Here there is rest. Here there is the gentle presence of God watching over you with tenderness deeper than words. Imagine yourself now lying beside a small desert fire beneath an endless sky. The flames move softly, gold and amber against the darkness. The air is cool but comfortable. Above you, thousands upon thousands of stars shimmer quietly like silver scattered across velvet. Somewhere nearby, wind moves through dry grass and distant palms with a soft, whispering sound. The wilderness at night is not empty. It is alive with stillness. And in this stillness, you are not alone. God is near, not far away, not distracted, not disappointed in you for being tired. He is near to the weary, near to the anxious, near to the hearts that feel worn thin by life. The same God who walked beside Israel through long desert roads still walks gently beside tired souls tonight. So breathe again, slowly, deeply. Let your chest rise softly and fall. Feel the heaviness beginning to gather behind your eyes now. Feel your body loosening its grip on the day, your hands resting more comfortably, your legs becoming heavier against the bed, even your thoughts beginning to drift more slowly, like clouds moving across a moonlit sky. You do not need to rush into sleep. Sleep comes gently when the soul feels safe enough to rest. And tonight, you are being invited into that safety. Imagine warm firelight flickering across ancient stone. Imagine soft sand cooling beneath the night air. Imagine the slow rhythm of distant footsteps fading into silence as travelers settle for the evening beneath their tents. There is no urgency here, no noise demanding your attention. Only quiet, only stillness, only the peaceful breathing of the night. And perhaps somewhere deep within yourself, you can feel another truth beginning to settle softly into place. You are held. Even in seasons when life feels uncertain, you are held. Even when prayers seem unanswered, you are held. Even when your heart feels weary from carrying too much for too long, you are still held carefully in the hands of God. The wilderness roads of Scripture were never empty places. They became places where people discovered that God stayed close in the dark. Places where frightened hearts learned slowly that they were not abandoned after all. And tonight, as your breathing slows and your thoughts soften, perhaps your own heart can rest inside that same quiet promise. God is watching over you. You do not need to fear the night. You do not need to fear tomorrow. The one who created the stars above ancient deserts also watches over this very room, this very bed, this very moment. Now that your breathing become even softer, feel the air entering your lungs gently and leaving gently. If there is tension remaining in your body, imagine it, melting away like frost, disappearing beneath the first warmth of morning sunlight. Let your arms grow warm and loose. Let your stomach soften. Let the muscles in your back unwind one by one. Let your entire body settle downward as though you were floating peacefully upon calm water. The night is becoming deeper now, quieter, softer, and your soul does not need to strive here. You may simply rest beside the gentle presence of God. Imagine now the glowing pillar of fire far away in the wilderness darkness. Steady, warm, constant, never flickering out. A quiet reminder to weary travelers that they were being guided even when they could not see very far ahead. That is often how God leads us, not always by showing the entire road at once, but by remaining present for the next step. Present in the darkness, present in uncertainty, present through every silent hour of the night. And perhaps tonight, that is enough. You do not need every answer before you sleep. You do not need to untangle every fear. You are allowed to rest before everything is resolved. Let that truth settle gently into your chest. You are safe. You are deeply loved. And you are not alone in the wilderness. The fire still burns softly in the distance. The stars remain overhead. The cool night wind drifts slowly across the ancient hills, and beneath the quiet watchfulness of heaven, your breathing becomes slower still. Your body heavier still. Your thoughts quieter still. As peace settles over you like a soft covering in the night. Now imagine the night slowly fading into the soft gold of early morning. The stars above the wilderness begin to disappear one by one, dimming gently as the horizon blushes with pale light. The desert wind still moves softly across the sand, cool from the long night, carrying with it the scent of dry earth and distant water. Somewhere, far away, birds begin their first quiet songs to the dawn. And as the ancient wilderness fades behind us, another land slowly rises before your imagination. Egypt, ancient and vast beneath the morning sun. See the Nile River flowing steadily through the land like a ribbon of silver and blue, wide and ancient, calm and enduring. Its waters moving slowly past reeds and papyrus and groves of date palms that sway gently in the warm breeze. For thousands upon thousands of years, this river carried life through the heart of the desert. It nourished fields of grain. It watered flocks and gardens. It reflected the golden light of sunrise every morning long before any of us were born. Imagine yourself standing quietly beside its banks now. The air is warm already, though the day has only just begun. Sunlight glimmers across the rippling surface of the river. Fishermen move silently in narrow wooden boats. The distant sound of water touching the reeds creates a soft and rhythmic whispering that almost sounds like breathing itself. Breathe slowly now, and let the ancient world unfold gently around you. Far beyond the riverbanks rise the cities of Egypt, glowing beneath the desert sun. Massive stone temples stand tall against the sky. Pillars carved with strange and beautiful symbols cast long shadows across polished courtyards. Golden banners flutter softly in the morning air. The scent of incense drifts through palace halls where servants move quietly across cool marble floors. And beyond it all, the pyramids, enormous and silent beneath the endless blue sky, ancient even to the ancient world itself. They rise from the sand like mountains shaped by human hands, their edges glowing amber beneath the morning light. Their shadows stretch long across the desert floor as though time itself has paused beside them. Egypt was powerful then, one of the greatest kingdoms the world had ever known. Its rulers were wrapped in fine linen and gold. Musicians played in candlelit courts. Priests spoke prayers inside vast temple chambers filled with smoke and firelight. Wealth flowed through the land like the Nile itself. And yet beneath all the beauty, there was sorrow. Because hidden behind the walls of the palaces and temples lived a people who were not free. The Israelites, descendants of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. Long ago, they had come to Egypt during a famine, rescued by the remarkable story of Joseph, the dreamer who had once been sold into slavery by his own brothers and yet somehow rose to great honor within Pharaoh's courts. Joseph had saved Egypt from starvation. He had welcomed his family into the land. He had forgiven those who wounded him. And for a time, the Israelites lived peacefully there. But time passed quietly, as it always does. Joseph died. The old Pharaoh died. Generations came and went like drifting sand beneath the desert wind. And eventually, a new king rose to power in Egypt, a king who no longer remembered Joseph. This Pharaoh looked upon the growing Hebrew people and became afraid. Fear settled into his heart slowly and coldly like shadow filling a room at sunset. He saw their numbers increasing. He saw their strength. And instead of compassion, he chose control. So the Israelites were forced into labor. Imagine them now beneath the heat of the Egyptian sun. Men shaping bricks from clay and straw with tired hands. Women carrying water beneath heavy baskets. Families rising before dawn each morning to labor beneath overseers whose voices cracked like whips through the air. The ancient scriptures say their lives became bitter with hard labor. And yet even there, even in suffering, life continued. Children still laughed softly beside cooking fires at night. Mothers still sang gentle songs beneath the stars. Fathers still whispered old stories about Abraham and the promises of God while the desert wind moved quietly beyond their tents. Because suffering could not fully erase hope. Breathe slowly now, and let yourself drift deeper into the story. Night falls over Egypt once more. The heat of the day fades slowly from the stones. Torches flicker along palace walls. The Nile reflects silver moonlight beneath the darkness. Crickets sing softly among the reeds. And somewhere in the land of Goshen, a mother holds her newborn son close against her chest. His name has not yet been spoken aloud. The Pharaoh, overcome by fear and cruelty, has commanded that every Hebrew baby boy be cast into the Nile River. Soldiers move through the land carrying out the terrible decree, and so this young mother hides her child carefully in silence. Imagine her now in the dim glow of lamplight, her hands trembling slightly as she rocks the baby gently, listening for footsteps outside. holding him close through long, fearful nights while the rest of the world sleeps. For 3 months, she hides him. 3 quiet months of whispered prayers and careful breathing and desperate hope. But babies grow, and secrets become harder to keep. So one morning before sunrise, while the world is still soft and blue with early dawn, she walks slowly toward the Nile carrying a small woven basket in her arms. The river moves quietly beside her. Papyrus reeds sway gently in the breeze. Birdsong drifts across the water. And with tears in her eyes, she places the basket carefully among the reeds at the river's edge. Inside lies the child. Small, peaceful, sleeping softly as the river rocks him gently beneath the morning light. Nearby stands his sister Miriam, watching silently from a distance with brave young eyes. And then something unexpected happens. Down to the river comes Pharaoh's daughter, surrounded by attendants clothed in fine linen. She steps carefully toward the water to bathe in the cool morning river, and as she walks among the reeds, she notices the basket floating there. She pauses. The basket is brought to her. She opens it, and inside, the baby begins to cry, a small, fragile sound beneath the vast Egyptian sky. And in that moment, something softer than politics, softer than fear, rises within her heart. Compassion, gentle and immediate. She knows this child is Hebrew. She knows the danger surrounding him, but compassion reaches deeper than the laws of frightened kings. And so the river that was meant to bring death becomes instead the road of salvation. The child is drawn safely from the water, held carefully in royal arms beneath the golden morning sun. And the little basket drifting among the reeds becomes the beginning of one of the greatest journeys ever told. So let your breathing remain slow and peaceful now. The Nile continues flowing softly through the ancient world. The reeds sway gently in the warm breeze. Moonlight and sunlight rise and fade across the waters as generations come and go. And somewhere deep within the quiet unfolding of this story, God is already moving tenderly through every hidden moment, even before anyone fully understands what is coming next. The child drawn gently from the waters of the Nile would grow between 2 worlds. One world was filled with polished stone halls and golden torchlight and the quiet music of royal courts. The other was filled with dust and labor and the weary cries of oppressed people beneath the Egyptian sun. Moses carried both worlds within him as he grew older, and perhaps even in the comfort of Pharaoh's palace there remained inside him a quiet ache he could never fully explain. Imagine him now, walking slowly through the cool corridors of the palace in the late evening. Oil lamps flicker softly against painted walls. The scent of incense drifts lazily through open windows where warm night air moves gently from the Nile. Outside, the river reflects silver moonlight beneath the stars, while servants move quietly through the sleep-in halls of Egypt. Moses learns the language of kings. He studies ancient writings and listens to conversations about trade and armies and power. He wears fine linen. He eats at royal tables surrounded by beauty and wealth. Yet somewhere beyond the palace walls, his own people continue shaping bricks beneath heavy burdens. Their suffering rises daily into the heavens like smoke beneath the desert sun. And over time, the distance between those 2 worlds becomes harder for Moses to bear. One day, he walks among the Hebrew laborers and sees an Egyptian overseer beating a Hebrew slave with cruel force. The dry air is hot and heavy. Dust swirls around weary feet. The crack of violence echoes sharply across the worksite. And suddenly, anger rises inside Moses like fire catching dry grass. Before wisdom can calm him, before thought can slow him, he strikes the Egyptian man. The overseer falls lifeless into the sand. Silence follows. heavy and terrible. Moses looks around quickly beneath the blazing sky. Fear rushes into him now where anger had been only moments before. He hides the body beneath the sand, but hidden things rarely remain hidden for long. Soon the whispers spread through Egypt. Pharaoh hears what has happened, and Moses, once protected beneath royal authority, becomes a hunted man. So he flees into the wilderness. Imagine the palace disappearing behind him as the desert stretches endlessly ahead. The soft green banks of the Nile fade into dry valleys and rocky hills beneath a burning orange sky. Sand drifts across his sandals while the wind moves through lonely mountain passes with a low and ancient whisper. The wilderness receives him quietly. Days become weeks. Weeks become years. Moses settles in the land of Midian, far from Egypt's noise and power. There, beside a well, he meets the daughters of a priest named Jethro and helps them water their flocks when rough shepherds attempt to drive them away. A small act of kindness becomes the beginning of an entirely new life. He stays there. He marries. He becomes a shepherd. And slowly the prince of Egypt disappears into the silence of ordinary days. 40 years pass beneath the skies of Midian. 40 years of guiding sheep through dry valleys and lonely hills. 40 years of sunrise over desert mountains and cold nights beneath endless stars. The man who once walked among gold and incense now carries the dust of wilderness roads upon weathered feet. And perhaps there are nights when Moses sits beside a small fire beneath the stars, wondering if his life has already slipped quietly behind him. Perhaps he believes he failed too deeply in Egypt. Perhaps he thinks the story God intended for him has already ended. But the wilderness is often where hidden preparation takes place. Sometimes God does his deepest work in silence. Breathe slowly now. Feel the cool desert air settling softly across the hills of Midian. The sheep rest quietly nearby. The stars above seem endless and clear beyond imagining. The fire beside Moses crackles softly in the darkness, while the vast wilderness stretches peacefully in every direction. And then, one ordinary day becomes holy forever. Moses is leading the flock near the mountain of Horeb when something catches his attention in the distance. A bush is burning upon the hillside. At first, this does not seem unusual. Dry wilderness plants sometimes ignite beneath intense heat. But this fire is different. The bush burns, and burns, and burns. Yet the branches are not consumed. Golden flames move softly through the leaves without destroying them. Smoke rises gently into the still desert air. The fire glows with strange beauty against the silent mountain. Moses turns aside to look more closely, and then he hears a voice. Moses, Moses. Imagine how still the world must have felt in that moment. The wind quieting, the sheep silent, the mountain standing motionless beneath the wide blue sky. And from the midst of the fire, the voice of God gently speaking his name, not with anger, not with condemnation, simply calling him, Moses. The voice tells him to remove his sandals because the ground beneath him is holy. And Moses obeys. His bare feet touch the cool earth while the fire continues glowing before him like living light. Then God speaks words filled with tenderness. I have seen the suffering of my people. How comforting those words are. I have seen. Not ignored, not forgotten. Seen. The cries of the Israelites had not disappeared into silence. Heaven had heard every weary prayer whispered in exhaustion beneath Egyptian labor. God had watched over every hidden sorrow, every injustice, every sleepless night. And now, the time for deliverance was drawing near. Then comes the impossible invitation. I am sending you. Moses trembles beneath the weight of those words. Surely God has chosen the wrong man. Moses is no longer young. He is not powerful. He is not eloquent. He is a shepherd hidden in the wilderness with a painful past behind him. And perhaps that is precisely why God chooses him. Because God often calls weary people who no longer rely upon themselves, people who understand weakness, people who know their need for grace. Moses asks softly, "Who am I that I should go?" And God answers with words that have carried frightened hearts through countless wilderness seasons ever since. I will be with you. Not, you are strong enough. Not, you will never be afraid. Simply, I will be with you. The fire continues flickering softly in the quiet desert air. Warm light dances across stone and sand while the mountain remains wrapped in holy stillness. Moses stands there trembling before the mystery of a God who speaks from fire, yet also speaks with gentleness. And perhaps tonight, as your own breathing grows slower and your thoughts softer, these same words may settle peacefully into your heart as well. I will be with you. Through uncertainty, through fear, through every wilderness road you cannot yet fully see, God remains near to tired souls. The same God who watched over Moses among the reeds of the Nile, the same God who guided him through lonely years in Midian, the same God who spoke from the burning bush, still moves quietly through human lives with patience and tenderness beyond understanding. So let your body rest a little deeper now. Let your breathing slow like wind moving softly through desert grass beneath the stars. And remain here for a little while beside the holy fire, glowing gently in the wilderness night. The fire on the mountain still glows softly in the darkness as Moses stands trembling beneath the vast wilderness sky. The voice of God lingers within him long after the flames begin to fade into the quiet desert air. And though fear still moves inside his chest, another feeling has begun growing beside it now. Purpose. Slowly, reluctantly, Moses turns his face back toward Egypt. Imagine him walking once more across ancient desert roads beneath skies streaked gold and crimson with evening light. Sand shifts softly beneath his sandals. The wind moves through the hills with its low and endless whisper. Beside him walks his brother Aaron, sent by God to stand with him in the difficult road ahead. And ahead, in the distance, Egypt waits. The same towering temples, the same palace walls, the same kingdom that once hunted him. Yet Moses no longer returns as a prince of Egypt. He returns carrying only a shepherd's staff and the quiet authority of a voice spoken from holy fire. Breathe slowly now. The night deepens around the land of Egypt. Torches flicker along palace corridors. Shadows dance softly against carved stone walls while servants move silently beneath painted ceilings. Outside the palace gates, Hebrew families settle beneath simple roofs after long days of labor. Tired mothers rock children to sleep. Fathers sit quietly beneath the stars, speaking softly of old promises handed down through generations. And into this weary land, Moses comes with a message. Let my people go. Again and again he stands before Pharaoh. Again and again the ruler of Egypt hardens his heart like stone beneath the desert sun. The kingdom trembles beneath signs and wonders. Rivers turn dark, storms sweep through the land, darkness covers Egypt like a heavy veil. Yet Pharaoh refuses to release the people he has held in bondage for so long. And finally, a solemn night arrives unlike any night before it, a night remembered for thousands of years afterward. Imagine the Hebrew homes now scattered quietly across the land of Goshen. Small lamps glow behind doorways. Firelight flickers warmly against mud brick walls. Families gather close together beneath the deepening night sky while a strange stillness settles over Egypt. The air itself feels watchful, sacred, tender. Each family prepares a lamb as Moses instructed. Bread is baked quickly without yeast. Bitter herbs rest upon wooden tables. Sandals are tied to weary feet. Traveling cloaks are gathered nearby. Staffs are held close in waiting hands. They are preparing not merely for a meal, but for departure, for freedom. Imagine the mothers whispering softly to frightened children while the warm scent of roasted bread fills the room. Fathers stand quietly at the doorway looking out into the darkness beyond the village. Somewhere in the distance, dogs bark softly beneath the moonlight. The Nile glimmers silver beneath the stars. And then comes one final instruction. The blood of the lamb is placed carefully upon the doorposts of each home, a sign of protection, a quiet declaration that this household belongs beneath the mercy of God. The Hebrew people may not fully understand everything unfolding around them that night. Perhaps they only know that Moses told them to trust, to remain inside, to prepare for movement before dawn. And sometimes faith begins exactly there, not with full understanding, but with quiet trust in the darkness. Breathe slowly now. Imagine the stillness of that sacred night, the flickering lamps, the hushed prayers, the warm firelight glowing against tired faces. Outside, Egypt lies silent beneath the midnight sky. The desert wind moves softly through palm branches beside the river. Stars shimmer high above the ancient world while heaven itself seems to wait. And then, deliverance begins moving through the land like unseen light. The long years of slavery are nearing their end. The cries of oppressed people have been heard. The God who spoke from the burning bush is now making a way for his people to leave the chains of Egypt behind forever. As dawn slowly approaches, movement begins everywhere across Goshen. Families gather belongings quickly. Children are lifted into tired arms. Bread, still warm from the ovens, is wrapped carefully in cloth. The streets begin filling with thousands upon thousands of weary travelers stepping into the cool air before sunrise. Imagine the sound of it. Footsteps upon dusty ground, soft voices calling through the darkness, sheep moving restlessly beside their keepers, the low murmur of an entire people beginning to move together after generations of captivity. And above them all, God leads. The scriptures tell us that the Lord went before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Imagine that sight now. Far ahead in the darkness rises a great glowing fire stretching upward into the night sky. Not harsh, not frightening, but steady and warm and beautiful beyond words. Its light flickers softly across the wilderness paths before them like heaven itself guiding weary feet through the unknown. The people follow, slowly, carefully. Perhaps many of them still carry fear inside their hearts. Slavery leaves deep wounds upon the soul. Even when chains are removed, fear often lingers quietly behind. But the fire moves ahead of them with patient steadiness, one step at a time, one night at a time, one weary breath at a time. And perhaps that is often how God leads all of us. Not always by revealing the entire journey at once, but by providing enough light for the next step. The wilderness stretches wide before Israel now. Open skies, dry hills, cool night winds carrying the scent of sand and distant water. Behind them lies Egypt, fading slowly into darkness. Ahead lies uncertainty. Yet something remarkable is happening within the hearts of the people. For the first time in generations, they are walking as free people. Imagine elderly men lifting their eyes toward the stars with tears quietly filling them. Imagine mothers holding sleeping children while walking beneath the glow of the heavenly fire. Imagine songs beginning softly among the travelers as the reality of freedom slowly settles into tired hearts. God is leading them away from bondage, away from fear, away from the endless labor that had defined their lives for so long. And though they do not yet fully know where the road will lead, the presence of God remains visible before them in the darkness. The pillar of fire never leaves. Warm, constant, faithful. Breathe slowly now. Feel the cool wilderness air around you. Hear the soft rhythm of countless footsteps upon the desert earth. The stars above seem endless, while the fire of God glows gently ahead, leading tired travelers through the night. And perhaps tonight, somewhere deep within your own heart, you also need to remember this quiet truth. God still leads weary people gently. He still guides anxious hearts through uncertain wilderness roads. He still makes pathways where none seem visible. The same God who led Israel out of Egypt beneath fire and cloud still watches over every tired soul resting beneath the night sky. So let your breathing become softer now. Let your thoughts drift like desert wind beneath the stars. And continue walking quietly with the people of God beneath the warm and steady light of deliverance. The wilderness road stretched onward beneath the vast canopy of stars while the people of Israel continued moving slowly through the night. Behind them, Egypt faded farther into memory with every weary step. Ahead of them, the pillar of fire glowed softly against the darkness, steady and warm, like a promise that refused to disappear. The air was cool now. Sand shifted gently beneath thousands of traveling feet. Children slept wrapped in blankets against their mothers' shoulders, while old men walked carefully beside flocks beneath the quiet moonlight. The sounds of movement drifted softly across the open wilderness like the breathing of the sea itself, and for a little while, there was peace. Perhaps some of the people dared to hope that the worst was finally behind them. Perhaps they began imagining what freedom might feel like after generations of slavery. The chains of Egypt were gone. The long years of labor beneath cruel overseers had ended, and still the fire of God moved faithfully ahead of them through the darkness. But then, something changed. Far behind the camp, beyond the rolling dust of the wilderness road, another sound slowly rose into the night air. The sound of horses. The sound of wheels grinding against stone and sand. The sound of an approaching army. Pharaoh had changed his mind. Fear and pride hardened his heart once more. He looked upon the emptiness left behind by Israel's departure and could not bear it. The labor force that built his cities was gone. The slaves he controlled had escaped beyond his grasp. So he gathered his chariots and horsemen beneath the blazing Egyptian sun and rode into the wilderness after them. Imagine the growing panic now moving through the camp of Israel as word spread among the people. Pharaoh is coming. The army is near. Dust rose in the distance like a storm cloud beneath the sky. The Israelites stopped beside the edge of the sea. Before them stretched dark water reflecting the pale light of dawn. Behind them thundered the chariots of Egypt, drawing closer with every passing moment. And suddenly, fear crashed into the hearts of the people like cold water. Imagine mothers clutching their children tightly, men staring helplessly across the sea, the old and weary trembling beneath the terrible thought that freedom might last only a few brief days before chains returned once more. The people cried out in panic. Some spoke angrily to Moses. Some wept openly. Some stood frozen beside the shore, staring at the impossible situation surrounding them. "There were graves enough in Egypt," they said bitterly. "Why bring us here to die in the wilderness?" How human those words are. Because fear often makes people forget the miracles that carried them this far. Fear narrows the heart until all it can see is danger, and yet even here, God remained present. Breathe slowly now. Feel the cool wind moving across the dark waters. The sky above the wilderness slowly turned silver with approaching dawn. Chariot wheels rumbled faintly in the distance while the sea stretched endlessly before the frightened travelers. And there stood Moses. Older now, weathered by wilderness years and holy encounters. His robes moved softly in the wind while the staff of God rested in his hand. Around him, chaos rose like storm waves, yet something deeper held him steady. Then Moses spoke words that have comforted anxious hearts for thousands of years afterward. "Do not be afraid." Simple words, gentle words, words spoken into terror. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Stand still, not because the danger was unreal, not because fear was foolish, but because sometimes salvation begins when exhausted people finally realize they cannot save themselves. The pillar of cloud moved then. Imagine that great living presence shifting slowly through the wilderness darkness. The cloud moved behind the camp of Israel and placed itself between God's people and the approaching Egyptian army. To one side, it became darkness. To the other side, it gave light. The wilderness wind began to rise, stronger now, colder now. The sea trembled beneath it. Moses lifted his staff over the waters while the night deepened around them. Wind swept across the surface of the sea with a sound like roaring breath moving through the world itself. The waters began pulling back, slowly, powerfully, mysteriously. A pathway emerged. Dry ground beneath towering walls of water. Imagine the awe of that moment. The sea standing open beneath the hand of God. Moonlight reflecting against great shimmering walls rising on either side. Wind rushing through the passage while frightened people stared in wonder at the impossible road suddenly laid before them. And then they began walking, one step at a time. Families moved carefully onto the seabed. Sand lay cool and firm beneath their feet. Children clung to their parents while sheep and cattle passed nervously through the strange watery corridor. Above them, the walls of water rose and shimmered like moving crystal beneath the dim light of dawn. The people walked forward between impossible things. And perhaps that is often how deliverance feels. Not always safe, not always calm, but guided, led through places where there should have been no road at all. Breathe slowly now. Hear the wind moving through the opened sea. Feel the damp coolness in the air. The fire of God still glowed somewhere behind them while countless footsteps echoed softly across the ocean floor. God was making a way, even here. Even now. The Egyptian army charged forward behind them. Chariots raced into the opened passage between the waters. Horses screamed and wheels struck hard against the ground beneath them. But something began happening within the chaos. The wheels of the chariots dragged heavily. The earth beneath them shifted strangely. Panic spread among the soldiers as they realized the God of Israel was fighting against them. And then Moses lifted his hand once more. The waters began returning, slowly at first, Then, powerfully, the sea crashed back into itself beneath the pale light of morning. Waves thundered across the passageway while Egypt's army disappeared beneath the returning waters. And suddenly, there was silence. Only wind. Only waves moving gently against the shore. Only the soft breathing of exhausted people standing safely upon the far side of the sea. The Israelites looked back across the waters in stunned wonder. The impossible had happened. The God who spoke from the burning bush had carried them through the sea itself. The place that should have destroyed them became the road of their salvation. And as the morning sun began rising over the wilderness horizon, joy slowly awakened among the people like light spreading across the earth. Then Miriam stepped forward. The same Miriam who once watched her baby brother drifting among the reeds of the Nile now stood free beside the sea. She lifted a tambourine into her hands while the sunlight danced across the waters behind her. And she began to sing. Other women joined her, their voices rising gently into the brightening morning air. Tambourines shook softly. Feet moved across the sand. Laughter and tears mingled together beneath the vast wilderness sky. For the first time in generations, they were truly free. Imagine the beauty of that moment. The sea sparkling beneath the rising sun, the cool wind carrying music across the shore, the dancing women silhouetted against the light of morning, and above them all, the quiet, faithful presence of God. So let your breathing slow once more. Rest beside the far shore now where fear has finally given way to peace. The waters move softly beneath golden light while songs of freedom drift gently through the wilderness air. And remember this quiet truth tonight. God still makes pathways through impossible places. He still leads weary souls through deep waters. And even when fear rises like armies behind you and uncertainty stretches like a sea before you, His presence remains steady beside you in the darkness. The songs beside the sea slowly faded into the distance as the people of Israel continued their long journey into the wilderness. Morning light spread gently across the desert hills, while the waters behind them shimmered beneath the rising sun. The fear of Egypt was gone now, carried away by the waves, but ahead stretched another kind of challenge. The wilderness, wide and silent and endless beneath the open sky. At first the people walked with wonder still fresh inside them. The memory of deliverance glowed warmly in their hearts like embers from a fire that had not yet faded. Children pointed toward the pillar of cloud moving before them through the daylight hours. Elders lifted tired faces toward heaven with quiet gratitude. The road ahead felt uncertain, yes, but also sacred somehow. And yet wilderness journeys have a way of revealing every hidden weakness within the human heart. Days passed beneath the burning sun. Sand and stone stretched endlessly across the landscape while dry winds moved softly through rocky valleys. The nights remained beautiful beneath the stars, but the days grew long and exhausting. Soon thirst began to rise among the people. Imagine them now walking slowly through barren hills beneath shimmering heat. Lips dry, feet aching. Mothers carrying weary children while shepherds searched the horizon for any sign of water. Finally, they arrived at a place where water rested among the rocks. Relief spread quickly through the camp. People hurried forward with cups and jars and trembling hope. But when they tasted the water, bitterness filled their mouths. The water could not be drunk, and disappointment settled heavily upon the people once again. The place became known as Mara, bitterness. How quickly human hearts move between praise and fear. Only days earlier they had danced beside the sea. Only days earlier songs of freedom filled the morning air. but exhaustion changes the sound of our thoughts. Weariness narrows vision. Even miracles begin fading when thirst becomes sharp enough. The people cried out in frustration, and Moses turned to God beneath the burning wilderness sky. Then something simple and mysterious happened. God showed Moses a piece of wood. Moses cast it into the bitter waters, and slowly the water became sweet. Imagine the stillness of that moment. The desert wind softening around them, the surface of the water shimmering beneath sunlight. Weary travelers kneeling beside the pools to drink deeply at last. And perhaps there is something beautiful hidden inside this quiet miracle. God did not remove the wilderness. He did not suddenly surround the people with rivers and gardens and endless comfort. Instead, he met them gently within their need. That is often the way of God, not always removing hardship immediately, but remaining present within it. Breathe slowly now. Imagine yourself resting beside those sweetened waters beneath the shade of desert palms. The air feels cooler here. The sound of water trickling softly across stone echoes gently through the stillness. Travelers sit quietly with relief upon tired faces, while children laugh softly nearby. You are safe here. You are being carried farther than you realize. The journey continued. The pillar of cloud still moved faithfully ahead of the people each day. At night, the pillar of fire glowed warmly against the darkness, like a lantern held gently by heaven itself. But as the wilderness stretched onward, hunger began rising among the camp. The supplies carried from Egypt slowly diminished. Bread became scarce. Bellies tightened with emptiness. And once again, fear whispered through tired hearts. The people began remembering Egypt through softened memories. They remembered meals beside cooking pots, bread in abundance, familiar routines. Slavery has a strange power over memory sometimes. Even painful places can begin appearing comfortable when the future feels uncertain. So they complained. They wondered aloud whether freedom had only led them into starvation. And once more, God responded not with abandonment, but with provision. That evening, quail drifted across the wilderness camp like soft moving shadows beneath the twilight sky. And when morning came, something else appeared upon the ground. Imagine dawn spreading slowly across the desert now. Pale golden light touching the sand, cool air lingering before the heat of day arrives. The people step outside their tents and stop in wonder. Covering the earth lies something delicate and white like frost upon the ground. Small, gentle, mysterious. The people look at one another and ask, "What is it?" In Hebrew, the question sounds like manna, and that becomes its name forever. Manna, bread from heaven. Imagine them gathering it quietly in woven baskets while the morning remains cool and peaceful. Children kneel beside their parents, collecting the tiny white flakes from the earth. The scent is faintly sweet, like honey and fresh bread together. Every sunrise becomes an invitation to trust again. Daily bread. Not enough stored for years, not endless abundance piled high for anxious hearts, just enough for today. And perhaps that was part of the lesson hidden inside the manna itself. Trusting tomorrow to God. Receiving grace one day at a time. Breathe slowly now. Imagine the stillness of those wilderness mornings, the soft glow of dawn upon endless sand, the quiet gathering of manna beneath the watchful sky. Somewhere nearby, sheep stir gently while smoke rises from small cooking fires into the cool morning air. There is something deeply peaceful about daily provision. The Israelites learn another sacred rhythm there in the wilderness. On the 6th day, enough manna appears for 2 days because the 7th day is meant for rest. Rest. a gift many former slaves had nearly forgotten was possible. For generations, their bodies had known only labor, endless labor beneath harsh overseers, endless production without pause. But now, God teaches them something radically beautiful. Human souls were not created merely to work. They were also created to rest in the presence of God. So on the Sabbath, the camp grows quiet. Imagine it now beneath the desert sky. No frantic gathering, no anxious striving, only stillness. Families resting together beside their tents. Elders sitting peacefully in the shade. Children sleeping softly while the pillar of cloud remains still above the camp. The wilderness itself becomes a classroom where exhausted people slowly learn they are more than slaves. They are beloved, cared for, guided, even here. Still, the journey remains difficult at times. There are days when thirst returns once more, days when fear rises again like wind across the sand. At one place called Rephidim, the people find no water at all. Their throats burn with dryness beneath the relentless heat. Anxiety spreads quickly through the camp, and again Moses cries out to God. God instructs him to strike a rock with the same staff once lifted over the sea. Imagine the moment. The hard stone beneath blazing sunlight, the weary crowd gathered silently nearby. Moses raising the staff, then striking the rock. And suddenly, water bursts forth, clear, cold, abundant, flowing across dry ground where moments earlier there had been nothing. The people rush forward in amazement, hands cupped, faces lifted, water splashing across tired skin beneath the wilderness sun. And somewhere within the quiet unfolding of these miracles, a deeper truth continues revealing itself. God is with them. Not only beside seas parted dramatically beneath storm winds, not only within pillars of fire, but also in bread gathered quietly at dawn, in sweetened water, in Sabbath rest, in streams flowing unexpectedly from stone. The wilderness becomes not merely a place of survival, but a place of relationship, a place where weary people slowly learn the steady faithfulness of God, one ordinary day at a time. So let your breathing become softer now. Imagine the wilderness at evening once more, the heat of day fading gently from the stones, the pillar of fire glowing warmly beneath the stars. Families resting quietly beside their tents while soft desert winds move through the camp. And rest here for a little while beside this sacred truth. You do not carry yourself alone through life's wilderness roads. There is still manna for weary souls, still water for the thirsty, still rest for the exhausted, and still a faithful God leading gently through the desert night. The wilderness journey continued beneath the steady guidance of cloud and fire until at last the people arrived at the foot of a great mountain rising from the desert floor like an ancient stone throne beneath the sky. Mount Sinai. The mountain stood silent and immense against the horizon, its rugged slopes glowing bronze beneath the fading light of evening. Winds moved softly through the rocky cliffs while shadows stretched long across the wilderness below. Around the mountain, the people of Israel made camp, thousands upon thousands of tents scattered across the open desert like small resting places beneath the watchful heavens. The air itself seemed different there, still, expectant, sacred. Imagine the camp now settling into quietness as night slowly descends upon Sinai. Small fires flicker gently outside family tents. The scent of bread baking over open flames drifts through the cool evening air. Children curl sleepily beside their mothers while shepherds gather the flocks close for the night. And above them all rises the dark silhouette of the mountain, reaching upward toward the stars. Somewhere deep within their hearts, the people know they have arrived at a holy place. This is the same mountain where Moses once stood barefoot before the burning bush. The same wilderness where God called his name from the fire. And now, the entire nation rests beside that sacred mountain, waiting for what will come next. Breathe slowly now. Feel the cool desert wind moving gently across the camp. Hear the quiet crackling of distant fires beneath the night sky. The pillar of cloud rests near the mountain while countless stars shimmer overhead like scattered silver upon dark velvet. Morning comes slowly. Golden sunlight touches the mountain peaks while the camp begins to stir awake. Moses walks upward toward Sinai alone, climbing the rocky slopes beneath the vast open sky. His footsteps echo softly against stone while silence surrounds him on every side. And there, upon the mountain, God speaks again. The voice that once rose from the burning bush now speaks over an entire people. I carried you on eagle's wings, God says, and brought you to myself. What tender words. Not merely brought out of Egypt, not merely rescued from slavery, brought to myself. Because the wilderness journey was never only about escape from bondage, it was also about relationship, about learning to live close to the presence of God. The people below prepare themselves carefully. They wash their garments. They wait quietly beside the mountain. A sense of awe settles across the camp like morning mist upon the desert. Then, on the third day, the mountain awakens. Imagine it now. Thunder rolling deeply through the wilderness sky. Lightning flashing across dark clouds gathered above Sinai. A trumpet sound rising long and low across the desert air. Smoke swirling upward from the mountain as though the earth itself has become wrapped in holy fire. The ground trembles beneath the feet of the people. And yet, even within all the power and mystery of that moment, there remains something profoundly beautiful. The God who formed the stars and seas is drawing near not to destroy, but to covenant. Not to abandon, but to dwell among his people. The Israelites stand trembling at the foot of the mountain while Moses moves closer into the cloud where God's presence rests. And there upon Sinai, words are spoken that will echo through generations long after the desert winds themselves have faded. The commandments. Not cold laws carved merely to control people, but invitations into a different kind of life. A life shaped not by oppression and cruelty like Egypt, but by holiness and mercy and love. You shall have no other gods before me. Because human hearts become restless and broken when they worship power or wealth or fear instead of the living God. Honor your father and mother. Do not steal. Do not lie. Do not murder. Simple words. Sacred words. Words meant to shape a people who had known slavery into a people capable of compassion. Imagine the people listening in fearful wonder while thunder moves softly above the mountain peaks. The sound of the trumpet still echoes through the wilderness air. Smoke rises into the heavens while Moses stands within the cloud, receiving the covenant of God. And beneath all the commandments lies a deeper invitation still. Relationship. God is teaching former slaves how to live as beloved people. Not driven endlessly by fear, not ruled by violence, but formed slowly into a community marked by justice and mercy. Breathe slowly now. The mountain remains wrapped in cloud and fire beneath the darkening sky. Evening begins settling once more across the camp while the people sit quietly outside their tents, reflecting upon all they have seen and heard. There is something deeply comforting hidden within this moment at Sinai. God did not rescue Israel only to leave them wandering without direction. He gave them wisdom, boundaries, rhythms for living. Even the command to rest each Sabbath carried healing within it. Rest. Holy rest. A gift for people whose bodies still remembered generations of endless labor. Imagine the quietness of Sabbath in the wilderness now. No frantic gathering, no harsh overseers shouting beneath the sun. Only stillness. Families sitting together beneath the shade of tents while the pillar of cloud rests peacefully above them. God was teaching them that human worth is not measured by endless production. They were already loved, already chosen, already carried by grace. Moses remains upon the mountain many days. Below, the people wait beneath the shifting desert skies while the cloud of God's presence covers Sinai like living mist. At night, the mountain glows faintly with holy fire against the darkness. And perhaps, in those long days of waiting, the people begin slowly understanding something sacred. The God who parted the sea is not distant. The God who provided manna is not hidden far away among unreachable stars. He desires to dwell among them, to guide them, to shape them gently into a people who reflect His heart within the world. A kingdom of priests, a holy nation. Imagine the beauty of that vision beneath the desert sky. Former slaves becoming carriers of divine mercy, a wandering people transformed slowly by the presence of God moving among them. The wilderness itself becomes holy ground because God is there. And perhaps tonight, your own weary heart needs to remember this quiet truth as well. God still meets people in wilderness places, still speaks gently through storm and silence, still calls tired souls into rest and relationship. You do not need to climb mountains to be noticed by Him. You do not need perfect strength or perfect faith. The same God who descended upon Sinai still moves tenderly toward human hearts with mercy and patience beyond understanding. So that your breathing becomes softer now. Imagine the mountain resting beneath countless stars, the fires of the camp glowing quietly across the desert floor, the cool night wind moving through tents and stone and sleeping flocks. And high above the silent wilderness, the presence of God remains steady and near, like a warm light burning softly through the darkness. The mountain of Sinai stood quietly beneath the stars, while the camp of Israel rested below like a sea of small glowing lights scattered across the wilderness floor. The thunder and fire that once shook the mountain had softened now into silence. Cool desert winds moved gently through the tents while families slept beneath blankets warmed by fading firelight. And above them all, the presence of God still rested upon the mountain like a cloud glowing softly in the night. Moses remained there many days. The people waited below while he listened to the voice of God speaking from within the cloud. But now the words spoken upon Sinai turned toward something deeply tender. God was not only giving commandments or guiding their journey through the wilderness. He was preparing to dwell among them. Imagine the beauty of that thought for a moment. The Creator of heaven and earth desiring to make His dwelling place among weary travelers in the desert. Not inside Egypt's towering temples of stone, not within royal palaces lined with gold, but among former slaves living beneath simple tents beneath the stars. Breathe slowly now. Feel the cool stillness of the wilderness evening. Hear the soft crackling of distant fires while sheep rest quietly nearby. Above the camp, the stars shine like scattered silver across the heavens while the mountain remains wrapped gently in cloud. God begins giving Moses detailed instructions for a sacred dwelling place, the tabernacle. a portable sanctuary that would travel with the people wherever the wilderness road led them. A holy tent where heaven and earth would meet gently together in the midst of ordinary human life. Imagine the people listening carefully as Moses shares the vision with them. Their tired hands, once used only for making bricks beneath harsh Egyptian labor, are now invited into holy craftsmanship. Woodworkers begin shaping smooth acacia wood beneath the desert sun. Women weave rich fabrics of blue and scarlet and purple thread, while children watch quietly nearby. Skilled hands hammer gold into beautiful shapes glowing warmly beneath firelight. The wilderness fills with the sounds of creation, not the sounds of slavery, but the sounds of people building something sacred together. There was something deeply healing about this work. In Egypt, their labor had built monuments for fearful kings, but now their hands are creating beauty for the presence of God. Imagine the tabernacle slowly taking shape beneath the open sky. Curtains woven carefully with images of cherubim. Golden clasps gleaming softly in the sunlight. Wooden frames standing upright upon silver bases. Fine linen moving gently in the desert breeze like sails catching invisible wind. At the center of the tabernacle rests the most sacred place of all, the Holy of Holies. A quiet, hidden chamber separated by a thick embroidered veil. Within it stands the Ark of the Covenant, covered in gold, carrying the tablets of the covenant given upon Sinai. Above the ark spread golden wings of cherubim facing one another in stillness and reverence. Imagine the quietness inside that sacred space. Soft lamplight flickering against gold, the faint scent of incense drifting gently through the still air. Silence, deep and holy as desert midnight beneath the stars. And perhaps most beautiful of all is this simple truth. The tabernacle is meant to move. God does not ask his people to remain forever at Sinai. The wilderness journey will continue. The cloud will rise again. New roads will stretch ahead through uncertainty and waiting and wandering. And yet, wherever the people go, the presence of God will go with them. The sanctuary can be folded carefully and carried through the wilderness. Every curtain, every golden lampstand, every sacred vessel moving alongside the people beneath cloud and fire. Because God does not merely visit his people occasionally. He journeys with them. Breathe slowly now. Imagine evening settling once more across the wilderness camp. The finished tabernacle stands quietly at the center of Israel, like a glowing heart beneath the stars. Lamps burn softly within the holy place, while smoke from incense rises gently into the cool night air. Nearby families rest outside their tents after long days of work. Some speak quietly beneath the moonlight. Others sit silently watching the tabernacle with wonder resting upon their faces. For the first time, perhaps, they begin truly understanding something astonishing. God is near, not distant, not hidden beyond unreachable heavens. Near. The same God who led them through the sea now chooses to dwell in the midst of their ordinary lives. Inside the holy place stands the golden lampstand shaped like a living tree with branches spreading outward gracefully. Imagine its warm light glowing steadily through the night while shadows dance softly against woven curtains. Nearby rests the table of bread, placed continually before the Lord. Bread for the presence. Bread reminding the people that God himself sustains and nourishes life. And there too rises the altar of incense, where fragrant smoke curls upward morning and evening, like prayers ascending gently into heaven. Every detail carries meaning, every thread, every flame, every sacred fragrance. The wilderness itself is becoming transformed by worship. And perhaps there is another quiet lesson hidden here as well. God delights in beauty. The colors of the woven curtains, the polished gold, the careful craftsmanship, the soft glow of lamplight against embroidered fabric. None of it is rushed. None of it is careless. Human creativity itself becomes an offering shaped lovingly for the presence of God. Imagine the craftsman working late beside small desert fires beneath the stars, hammers tapping softly against gold, skilled fingers weaving delicate patterns by lamplight, voices speaking quietly while cool night winds move across the camp. There is peace in sacred work done slowly and with love. And eventually the tabernacle is completed, the final curtain hangs in place, the sacred furnishings rest where they belong. The camp grows quiet with expectation beneath the open sky. Then something extraordinary happens. The cloud descends. Imagine it now. The same cloud that guided Israel through the wilderness settles gently upon the tabernacle. Glory fills the holy dwelling like living light. The air itself seems filled with holiness and peace beyond words. The people stand watching in silent wonder. The presence of God has come to dwell among them. Not because they are perfect, not because they have fully conquered fear or doubt, but because God is faithful. Warm firelight flickers across amazed faces while the cloud glows softly against the darkening wilderness sky. Children cling quietly to their parents. Elders bow their heads with tears shining in tired eyes. God is truly with them. And from that moment forward, the movement of the cloud guides every step of their journey. When the cloud lifts, the people prepare to travel. When the cloud rests, they remain. Their lives begin moving according to the gentle rhythm of God's presence. Rest when He rests. Move when He moves. Trust even when the road ahead remains unseen. So let your breathing become slower now. Imagine yourself resting quietly beside the tabernacle beneath the desert stars. The golden lamp inside glows softly through the night, while the cool wind carries the faint scent of incense across the sleeping camp. The wilderness no longer feels empty. The presence of God has filled it with peace. And perhaps tonight, your own heart needs to remember this gentle truth as well. God still chooses to dwell with weary people, still moves through ordinary lives with quiet holiness, still remains present through every wilderness season. You are not wandering alone beneath the night sky. The light of His presence still glows softly in the darkness, steady and near, guiding tired souls home, one peaceful step at a time. The wilderness years stretched onward beneath endless skies, slow and quiet and difficult in ways the people of Israel could never have imagined when they first stepped out of Egypt beneath the glow of the pillar of fire. Days became seasons, seasons became years. The wilderness itself began shaping them little by little, like water slowly smoothing rough stone. Imagine the camp now moving through the vast desert beneath the morning light. The tabernacle is carefully dismantled piece by piece while the Levites carry its sacred furnishings upon their shoulders. The cloud rises gently above the camp, signaling that it is time to journey once more. And so, the people follow, always following, across dry valleys, past jagged mountains glowing red beneath sunset, through stretches of wilderness where only wind and silence accompany them beneath the heavens. Breathe slowly now. Feel the rhythm of the journey. Footsteps upon sand, the soft sound of sheep bells drifting through the air. Children laughing quietly beside their mothers while old men walk slowly beneath staffs worn smooth by years of wandering. And always ahead of them, the cloud. By day it moves like living shade beneath the blazing desert sun. By night it glows with fire against the darkness, warm and steady and faithful. Yet even surrounded by miracles, the people still struggle, because wilderness seasons reveal what lies hidden inside human hearts. There are days when the people grow weary of manna. The bread from heaven that once filled them with wonder now feels ordinary. They remember Egypt again through softened memory. Fish beside the Nile, cucumbers and melons and fresh bread. How strange the human heart can be. The same people who once cried for freedom now sometimes long for the familiarity of slavery, simply because the wilderness feels uncertain. And perhaps we understand them more than we realize, because even today, many weary hearts cling to familiar pain rather than risk the unknown road toward healing. The people complain. Voices rise in frustration across the camp. Fear and exhaustion spread like desert wind through dry grass. Moses himself becomes weary beneath the burden of leading so many restless hearts through the wilderness. Imagine him now, sitting quietly outside the tent of meeting beneath the evening sky. His shoulders are heavy with responsibility. The firelight flickers softly across his tired face, while distant voices murmur through the camp around him. Leadership in the wilderness is lonely sometimes. Yet God remains patient. Again and again he provides. Again and again he listens. Again and again mercy flows toward weary people who still have much to learn about trust. The years continue unfolding slowly beneath the desert sky. Children grow taller beside the campfires. Elderly travelers pass quietly from this life beneath the stars. New generations rise who know Egypt only through stories whispered by their parents at night. And through all those years, the wilderness itself becomes a teacher. The people learn dependence. They learn patience. They learn that God's presence often appears not in constant comfort, but in daily faithfulness. Manna every morning, cloud every day, fire every night. One steady act of provision after another. At times the journey becomes painful. There are moments of rebellion and fear and sorrow. Some among the people begin doubting whether the promised land truly waits ahead at all. When spies are sent to explore the land of Canaan, they return carrying grapes so large they must be carried between two men upon a pole. The land is beautiful beyond imagining, flowing with abundance just as God promised. Yet fear rises once more. The cities appear strong, the people appear powerful, and suddenly many Israelites feel small and helpless again, like frightened slaves standing beneath Egyptian whips. Only Joshua and Caleb speak with courage. "The Lord is with us," they say gently. "Do not be afraid." But fear spreads more quickly than faith among tired people. The wilderness road grows longer because of it. And yet, even then, God does not abandon them. The cloud still moves. The tabernacle still stands at the center of the camp. Manna still appears with the morning dew. Breathe slowly now. Imagine the wilderness at dusk once more. The sky burns with deep orange and violet while shepherds gather flocks near the edges of the camp. Smoke rises softly from cooking fires. Children grow sleepy beside their mothers, while stars slowly awaken overhead one by one. There is sadness in the long wilderness years, yes, but there is also tenderness. Because during those years, God shapes Israel not merely into survivors, but into a people marked by compassion and mercy. Laws are given that protect the poor and the stranger. Widows and orphans are remembered. Debts are forgiven. Land is allowed to rest. Even animals are treated with kindness. The people who once suffered oppression in Egypt are taught never to build that same cruelty into their own society. You know the heart of the stranger, God tells them gently, for you were strangers in Egypt. What beautiful wisdom rests inside those words. Pain remembered honestly can become compassion. Wilderness wounds can become mercy for others. And slowly the people begin learning that holiness is not merely sacrifice and ritual. It is also justice, kindness, generosity, care for the weak and weary. The wilderness becomes a place where hearts are reshaped. Imagine the evenings now during those long wandering years. Families gathered quietly outside their tents beneath vast constellations. Grandparents telling children stories about the crossing of the sea and the fire upon Sinai. Young shepherds gazing toward distant hills while cool night winds drift softly across the camp. Life moves slowly there, quietly, sacred in its ordinary rhythm. And through every season, God remains present. When the people are afraid, the cloud remains. When they grieve, the tabernacle remains. When they fail, mercy still rises with the morning, like manna upon the ground. Even Moses, weary and aging now, continues walking beside them beneath the wilderness sky. His hair has grown white with years. His hands bear the marks of long roads and holy burdens. Yet still he speaks gently to the people. Still he enters the tent of meeting where the presence of God rests like living peace. There is something profoundly comforting about the patience of God through all those wilderness years. He does not hurry his people. He teaches slowly, patiently, tenderly. And perhaps tonight your own life may feel like a wilderness road at times. Long seasons of waiting, questions without easy answers, days when the future seems hidden beyond distant hills. But the wilderness is not proof that God has forgotten you. Sometimes the wilderness is where souls are quietly transformed, where trust deepens, where mercy grows, where tired hearts slowly learn that they are carried, even when the road feels uncertain. So let your breathing soften now. Imagine the camp of Israel sleeping peacefully beneath the stars. The tabernacle glows faintly at the center while the pillar of fire rises warm and steady into the night sky. The desert wind moves gently through the tents. The flocks rest quietly nearby. And above the sleeping wilderness, the faithful presence of God watches over every weary traveler still journeying home. Now the wilderness grows quiet beneath the deep stillness of night. The long journey from Egypt has stretched across deserts and mountains, through fear and wonder, through hunger and provision, through firelight and silence beneath the stars. And slowly, over all those years, the people of Israel learned something the wilderness had been trying to teach them from the very beginning. God was with them. Not only in miracles that shook the sea, not only upon mountains wrapped in thunder and cloud, but also in the ordinary rhythm of daily life, in manna resting softly upon the ground each morning, in the quiet glow of the tabernacle at night, in water flowing from unexpected places, in weary feet continuing one more day beneath the desert sky. And perhaps tonight, as your own breathing has grown slower and softer beside this ancient story, your heart may also begin to rest inside that same gentle truth. You are not alone in your wilderness seasons. The God who guided Israel through unknown roads still walks beside tired souls today, still watches over anxious hearts in the night, still provides daily bread for weary people who fear they will not have enough strength for tomorrow. Breathe slowly now. Feel the heaviness settling comfortably into your body. Let your thoughts drift like soft desert wind across quiet sand beneath the stars. There is nowhere else you need to be tonight. Nothing left to prove, nothing left to carry for a little while. Only rest. Imagine the wilderness camp sleeping peacefully now. Small fires glow faintly outside the tents, while sheep lie quietly nearby beneath the cool night air. Above the camp rises the pillar of fire, warm and steady against the darkness, like a gentle promise that heaven never truly leaves its people alone. The stars above Sinai shimmer softly. The desert wind moves gently through woven curtains, and deep within the tabernacle, the golden lamp still burns quietly in the night. Perhaps somewhere within yourself you can feel your own soul becoming still now. The rushing thoughts slowing, the worries loosening their grip, the fears growing quieter. Because the same God who remained faithful through every wilderness year remains faithful still. Faithful when people doubted, faithful when the road seemed long, faithful through every wandering season, and faithful tonight. So before sleep carries you gently deeper into rest, let this final blessing settle softly over your heart. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May His presence remain near beside your bed tonight, like fire glowing softly in the wilderness darkness. May He quiet every anxious thought that still lingers within you. May He strengthen the weary places inside your soul. May He give rest to your body, peace to your mind, and calmness to your spirit. And when tomorrow comes, may you remember that you do not walk through life alone. The cloud still leads. The fire still burns. The presence of God still remains with weary travelers on the journey home. Now, the wilderness becomes quieter still. The stars drift slowly overhead. The night air cools across the ancient hills, and far away in the silence, the gentle glow of heaven continues watching over sleeping souls beneath the endless sky. May you rest deeply tonight. May you sleep in peace. May Christ hold you gently through every hour until morning light returns once more. And as the fire flickers softly beside the quiet wilderness road, as the desert wind whispers through the darkness beneath the stars, may your heart finally settle into the deep and peaceful rest that God has lovingly prepared for you. In Jesus' gentle and eternal name, amen.